for a story? What do you think?
I think so. I think so. I mean, you gotta have good. You get a good story delivery method. You can, I think so.
But it's school. We're getting them to go there to learn how to communicate. First thing the teacher tells them, sit down and shut up.
I think she's cut. Right. Was ist hier die Taste cut you on?
Quit.
Okay. Okay. We did a gathering here at this campus, 2000, and we all got together and they said, we're going to really try to not use any English while we're here. We're really trying that. And then the next morning, we were all staying in the dorms here. It was really fun. And then we were at the dorms, and we were all at the cafeteria, and was getting my coffee, and I saw a speaker. What's that, E.T.? I said, good. I mean, you're gay. We always had to make the switch. You can't have touch the cut you on. Yeah, it's taught. Wush kanach watu da'at, way the two cook da kehitik. Awa, was jen kat clay dusha away a detki. Ha kuke utien, ha jen kat away, ku atlatu, ha has to ish, has to cleave. Hatu ya ke, achu an, just cashing get you katangi, hasak ya ach. Qa wutir qa'a wushtin Tlingit yochatangi wutuliyech qaqtu yake qnaqadat khwatankwe yis shkun Tlingit shkunaya hatuasagu qaqtuliyech taqa ayana khaya atina khayati Tlingit yochatangi qaqnaqwe hadat yochatangi Actually, Yachtwasagu, Dakhiki, Kakaway, Shetahini, Ataya, Adat, Putubutu, Ha, Adataya, Kautisha. Wasa, Wush Budukigeria, the Katayu Hatangi, Aka, Outlayech, Hwashlayech, Wutuslayech, Hasaushlayech, Yishlayech, Yishlayech. Udutligich, Aka, Adant away, Achtuasaku Kunach away, Hadat, Koka, Ha away, the Kata Yukatangi. Ya, hast sagach to Achzu, Ha Atwas Kuku, Yan what, has away a Dutsakunach, a Shaguka Yukatangi. Aka was Hatlaqay Qanachawe atu Kakakinach with subconscious aya Kanach Wush Jahuyach Yeti Ya Tudechia Wush Jahuyach Yeti Hayukatangi. Yeweach to us a gua to which Takaway at that Utahwatank. Kayatatsu, Lekach Enach Shishuku, Yuchatangiach to Asuku. What did the plus I classifier say to the perfective marker? When we get together, stuff gets done. Okay. Anything on your mind? Anybody want to say anything?
I was curious about this verb. Litzich. This one. And why the A is there on the front.
Litzich. I sneeze.
Like why is
most body functions. So what the A theme does when we get the A popping up, outlet. So outlet. Can somebody act that out? outlitsa. Can anybody act that out? Right? I have to act this one. Our quad, our shit, our shook. I don't need actors for those. But all those are A-themed things. And so what the A theme really does is it pops up in the object spot. And it says, forget about objects. We're locking that spot up. Just look at the action. So it makes it action focused. So I think you could probably remove it and substitute an object if you were going to say, so you say, auch letzikwa or auch letzikha. Different speakers might say it different. But maybe you could say, I sneeze out snot. I don't know what else you would sneeze out. Like a raisin? I don't know. I guess people could sneeze things out.
Dust.
Yeah. Kadunja. Kunach away get the cut out et kayani kadunj achshu odek. Achua achshu. So kadunja chwashes ikwa. But this is not, I don't know if all of them work like that. This is something that would, but the hint that we get is you could say, I was fishing. Qat I fished a sockeye. So once you insert an object, we see the A falling off. But for the body parts, you usually, like maybe you could say, atsh, and then you would switch to wutletsa, so he belched a song. But usually there's no object there, and so it's a really interesting phenomenon. And we see it with most of the body functions: peeing, pooping, burping, sneezing. As you get the A theme pop. And you got it in dancing, fishing, trolling. And there are some of them where it probably can't be removed, like outdagon. It's just there. It's there for being lazy. So, and then there's some strange things too, like when you say lazy, the A theme is there, and the Irialis is there, which is why you get utzika and uchtzika. And then to say he or she is lazy, I'm lazy. Anyone know of any other A-themed verbs? And I'll share the screen for us a bit here. So one of the ways that you can sort of, if you got some questions about verbs and you want to just sort of, we need lots of exercises, I think. There's a lot of different things you need to do to keep yourself going in Tlingit. And it's always a balance between sort of structural things that you're going to understand, and then new things to sort of get your brain tangled back up in the same net. Because I feel like you want to be in the same net quite a bit, but then sometimes you want to be like, let's just forget that I'm in the same net, and let's just go do something else.
When you're doing the grammatical stuff, you're insane. Right?
Yes, you're insane in that. In the same net, insane. Perfect. So there's the grammatical stuff, reading about some of the structure and thinking about the structure, and then there's just, forget that. I'm just going to go read a story and listen to the story at the same time. And we're getting more and more of those things lined up so that on tlingitlanguage.com, if you go to audio, I think it's resources, I can't remember, audio, video, audio. But if you find the audio link and you scroll to the bottom, as we discover things that are in the Downhar collections and other things, we're putting them up there so you can download those and listen to them. Someone suggested putting them on the iTunes store, which is a great idea, and it does make it easier to put onto your devices. But I don't know if we're there. Yeah. So anyway, so here is, and you could do this, I'm using Preview, you could do this in Adobe Acrobat, which is actually, as probably what I'm going to actually use that one. because previous is pretty good, but it's not a very good for doing searches. I think for whatever reason it has a hard time doing some of the searches. And so what we're going to do is we start kind of at the beginning. You don't want to start all the way at the very beginning. But for example, if I wanted to look at A-themed verbs, I would type A hyphen. So this is Adobe Acrobat. I push Command F. I think it's Control F if you have a PC to bring up the Find window. And I'm going to type A and a hyphen. And then as I hit the Enter key, it'll start scrolling through some different things. And so the unfortunate thing is this is going to grab all the KA ones and all the YA. So any of those, it's going to grab them. So maybe I should start here. And it's going to involve a lot of scrolling through. If I hit Enter, and it's going to find them. So it's going to grab. So as far as the way that they're marking these things, this A with the dash, the way that that's written now is usually N and sometimes P. My preference is just to put N, and that means it's a noun. And this is usually at a place. So you'd say ach I shlechan wekate, to follow something around. And so as we learn more about these sort of verb forms, we start to recognize these things. So shlechan, this is an imperfective form, and then we say ya shnachan. Here you've got the progressive imperfective. It's in the process of happening. Okay. So the A theme is actually kind of a hard one to find because I'm not good enough. There's probably a way to say I want A with nothing before it. I don't know how you do it. But we'll just keep punching through until we find something. It's not very common. So here's one. This is A themed here. So this is to be afraid of or to be frightened of. And so it's an interesting sort of pattern. So now you have, you could have the, or you could have dach. So achkeitlich, achkeitlich, or chit. If you're in Tessin, you might say chit. If you're in Yakutat, you might say chit. If you're in Engun or cake. Other areas might say chit. So. And you could say so here we've got the A on there, which is so to be afraid of something. This needs a noun in front of it usually, right? And so you can just say there's ways to just be generally afraid, but usually you're afraid of something. So you can say I was afraid of it or something. Or I was just afraid. So there's one, and I don't know. What you could do is you could copy a whole bunch of these, and you could look at them and say, what do these things have? Do they have something in common? Are there patterns that we might be looking for the A theme stuff? Yeah, I think that's all. There's another fun one. Where'd it go? This is a pretty fun little thematic prefix. Ah. Does anybody know what that one is?
It's like if you're because we had Ayagut last semester. It was
So when you say, okay.
Like it was like if you're together but you're going to different places or something like that. In that case, it was something like that.
Yeah. So this is where it gets really So getting these perfective examples, I've really tried to avoid motion verbs because motion verbs are they change when you start adding plurals, and they change their conjugation prefix, and they just have these weird things. Like here's some weird things about motion verbs. First, I'll answer my own question. Has something to do with announcing to people or calling out to people. So when you say which would be, it's in a story by Catherine Mills, that means people ran home to tell. So there's a number of different things that get kind of funky with motion verbs. So one is what we talked about, the conjugation prefix changes depending on the type of motion. The other thing is it tends to pluralize, so you say wugut and husbuat. The other thing that kind of happens is the fourth person human is not du in the motion verb, but it is it looks exactly like an A-themed one. So you'd say awsha'at, people were, or awa'at, people were walking. Right? And so it's pretty interesting to sort of, you start adding all these things together and it starts to get really kind of, just more, it's piling more and more onto the pile of our confusing fun stuff. Anything else? Anything else in you guys' brains? Oh, sorry. Let's see. I guess I got a storm in Yakutat. Let's see, I just got that. Okay, I think that might be as high as we can go. Let's see. Okay. So, kuwuk ade inau we hasta u after kat khako adusa we ikhti dei asawshi. Forgive all those who make the internet. I know it's been a real challenge for you guys there in Yakutat these last few weeks. I hope everybody's doing okay. I think everybody's doing great. This is the farthest we've ever taken an intermediate Tlingit class. It is unfortunately common for us to sort of lose numbers as we continue going, but I think we're still doing okay. So what I thought we'd do, taking a break from some of the nuts and bolts sort of stuff of how it all works, is we'll read a story. So this is the story. We've got the English on the right-hand side, and we're only worried about the Tlingit. So let's make our way through this whole story, and what I would like you guys to do is to just sort of make a note, maybe write it down if you see what looks like a perfective verb for you. And don't worry about the others, but make any notes or think of any things. We're not going to break out of Tlingit until we're done reading the story. I would like you guys to each read one of these little squares, basically. So they're divided into these squares. Each sentence is supposed to be within a little cell, basically. And then we've got and then we go online to Kawuch, and then Sitsala, Chiku Akati, like, and then we come back, Simach and Kutrich. Okay. Kakaya Shadak Kedakesh Kakwadi Aweku. Kaskawu Kakadach on Gunde Hasuchagas, West 1912. A Jaway Shkunatina Hasyati Ka Sheptahini A Singidani. We do on Kaway to Ku. Question just Chayiku Genki Okayati. Ya Nik Klein Aya has to cut Uha. Just Yeks Genki. Just Chayiku Genki Sheptahini Hakaku Haku Na. As called the eight at the way where on plane a day has for gas lunch. Lewe at was a good kunach. She the hinge got me aus the coup and shot dog. Ya kunach away, ya kay the yuch at hungry so. Ya at was a good yuch at hungry ayayi achitsu. Should the Haney upwards the key way down our collection too. You did part a cock aya got to two. Okay, good. Eat paw. Kukatina hietiga. Do jeep tech cook. Do jeep tech cook.
Oh.
To take Okay.
You ha ane ayu. You ha ane. Kalk ayu you do a salk. Great kalk henak kua basket bay.
Kuch.
Ayu, sa ayu, jadukhish.
Okay. Sisala.
Tlach kasiyeyi yach ayuyati you tlak. You tlak.
Okay.
Oh. Yandayak Kashaina Ayu. Kainachiti Ka Ayu Kandu page.
Yukis ayu kunach ka yan wudaich.
Ya on tayi day. Case kagani ka kayu an atch. Ya on tayi day.
Ya tusku ich ayak. Ich ayak. Ya ka kalk a shakanak anak ayu. Ashakanak anak ayu you aya atak. Ya antayadi.
Kuch.
Zait ayu, wudachat, would do a hut, atlan, as ayu.
Sisala.
Gusu shkashnik. I can't see the story.
Das ist a team.
Ayu zait wududlichech wududliech.
Anachaya Aka at Jean you on Tai Day. Clay Kai G Yena teach underline.
Oh. Na teach.
Teach.
Just
Ade
na teach.
Akashkanch.
Akach aya shadu chich. Ya tsa ya an taich.
The cut yede at aya at the height yata yi.
Aya yaqiz shatini ko aya kukas teach. Kleinach ayu yu iqi yan uhanch.
Klenach ayu you hit kalk a gunak. Gunakch. Gunakch.
Okay. Kuch.
up to where the story was? Could you show me where I am? Naski awe kua ayachan awe kakak shaki dachun awe chitle we wuth ke yachan.
Cicela?
Tutle ich dach yawanadeni tin awe ke at a ich de ich dach yawada
Mit Kaka, ach, eid was adukinen. Ich dach Yawada.
Yawada!
Ye ayu hastu kuk ya gehecht.
Chitlay Yahuchi Ayit Aya Anach An Yawush Nach Aya Ye Yach Daqich De Iqdach Yawada.
Akag aya yakal jirqaji
Jaqati.
jaqat.
I think it's like 3 items.
Ye asle kachur an unach lekachur unach aya kinde shaduchut yatsa yubu.
Anach aya du uchs.
Uch.
Plech adus a plech adus ach plech adus ach plech adus ach.
Cicela?
dach kunach ayu yasat yu ha yi.
Huwaya, Yashunat iti, Yachayunatich, Adeya Satkiya.
Tutle ich du shadi yach aya yu yanik ya hayi.
Chitlay Tach Kunach Ayu Ye Didnenuch Yaqa Jaqati Dach.
Utle yande ya yem dunas ya yem disnini tina we kun de ket shawe clark awe kinde yudze kat awe kalu guch kakit tu aya awe chawe tel kauch aya at kalu lun guch
Chukre aya anach nech u ach. Yaka jagade.
Cool Khalifa.
Yan kade ya kagadenin aweta yan kade ya kagadenin aga away ya kanach away. Plus, I'm able to see the last line there.
Oops. I was muted. Yagun Haku Ya Yinach Awe Kinde and the school Knuch Ya Kajakati. Cicela Eith Koa. Oh wait,
Oh,
is this mess? Is this way off? Hold on.
Quickly, you do
Hold on, let me check the tape. I'm gonna have to switch to the Downhauer book. Probably okay.
I think it's off. Because it should be able to click it on the left.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we're scanning.
As you can, if you scroll over, it looks like you can delete the page.
It's not my document, though. The shared document. We'll just run with it. We'll come back and see what happens. Okay. We know what it says. We don't need the English. Sisalait koha kosh tudechia.
Oh. Aya, aya, tutle kasyak, akat, dak, kuch, dinuch.
Yeah, I did talk about ad yakak adacha adich sitiya adacha adich sitiya.
Nasle, yeah, Nasle, de chalk, aya, de chalk, adach ha du tlagu, achha du tlesak, ka kledi.
Shugunach. Adeyu at kaudia ya Tlingit. Shia deheni a yeshkashnig. Ya kinach aya hard house dak. Ya ki.
Aya Shaudehini Shtaghin Yiknach Yavsidak Shtaghin Yiknach.
Ja, ach, ich has duchach nuch. Hast kahin ich nach ja has wustage.
Okay. Cool.
I got kicked off. Where are we?
Oh, okay. I just moved it. Are we here? Yeah, right here.
Plech Yati Ye Ayu Ach Yahin Sit Tayide Nada.
Sisla.
Ach, aya, wudu lisit, ya khanas.
Akak aya ye has budua yashanak sani.
I would say you out do a sock ka ku sick ya shanach san shku. Wait, can I say that again?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say you out do a sock ka ku sick ya shanach san.
Okay. Shanoksani. Granberg and Yach. Has aya shukunach ya sit tayide dark has would do go.
Atainach has hash away. Hainach ade. Kehas at kawashi.
It's supposed to be ashash.
Ja, sit Tayanach hasbuzga hashi aya at has shukwal hek huch
Okay.
wala huch.
Okay. Kubuch.
Kach aya chanas ye bududzini.
Okay.
Akade awuat.
Atei nachaya ya tsit. Tei nachaya kutli hash ya ichte.
Uchike yakda. Sisala.
Tushaya deheni akua aya a akautlichit yasit tayide wushash.
Achaya akat a uat. Ya akhi has khunki. Dak kawedi. Dak. Oh, it's typo.
Oh. Kuksa. Oh, yeah. Dakawai. Dakawai. Pam tade. Was.
Just cut a haswusiti.
Yeah, sit cut di aya akach sa aya sit ka sit ka you do a sa ya just ka nach yek ati
Ya uhan ya deshitan chasati ya dechuna ya has akanik ya ichkinach ya ichkinach
Gut anach sa kushe yek utua at uhan.
yakda di tro
Gut asa kshe anach yek utua at.
Adach ayat sa yanande gunaye kuatua she.
Shia deheni ye kau dua ak. Shia deheni ye at anchududli yech.
Sisala
We go away. Ya kutsnu ya ak. Yach ishti. Wishkashnik. Gusue. Wishkashnik. Yeah. We got away, yeah. Kutsnu ya kak. Yach ishti. Ich cut at we go away aga dark kuchli gas ye
Ha. Shaya dehini aya ha khunki. Ya deshitan. Ya dak kak. Ye adakyati. Dakyati.
it's a different duck than the other duck that we were talking about. There's 3 ducks. The duck we'll talk about it.
4. I have an uncle duck.
Chu cha guga. Chu cha gudach ye hasyati.
Shiyedehen Yanahu Ayeti Kaya Aksayi Shadak Su Ayeti Yadakka.
Did you know that President The one who signed Anilka into law, Jimmy Carter maybe, he was adopted into the Deshitan and he received that name.
Shadon. Oh,
Nahuwu.
Nahuwu. Okay. Sunny Plain.
It's just a funny fact.
Okay.
Aya adayu tuchatangi ayahas uch agudach ayestiye has du inge ya wuch dach has ustaqim.
Ye aya adu you to hatangi luch.
Yapta.
Achya is kat hakaudia uhan kua.
Ye Akwanak Yashkatni.
Okay, how we could appreciate your I had a project where I had students retype these stories, so this one might need a little proofreading. There's a couple little funny spots, but it's okay. I do like the 3-tiered high tone, teaching Kashkais how to read and write in Tlingit. She was practicing her letters, and she said, Ish, oh, that would be really high tone. Yuck away. Okay, so we're on the lookout for perfective verbs, but also if you have any other questions or comments, we'll point them out. So first, we're going box by box. These are more or less, I think, sentences is how we had them. Anything here? Anything you want to point out, or any perfective verbs?
You do a song.
Like, that is, well, I guess it is. This is a really weird verb form because it's got you on there, which is sort of thus. So I'm going to say sure because it has a plus I classifier. But it does, well, it does not. If this had a perfective marker, actually I'm going to take it back. I don't even know what it is. But it's not perfective. It was, if it were, there were the perfective, can somebody say the perfective form of this verb for me?
Would do a saw.
Would do a saw. Would do a saw. So we need the perfective marker in there, right? So the perfective marker plus the plus I means it's perfective. It has happened. And we go back, the perfective does not mark time at all. It has nothing to do with time. All it means is that the verb was completed. We put the perfective marker in there, and that says we look at the verb as an event. Now that event has either happened or it didn't. And then the plus I is the only thing that tells us that it did happen. Okay? So the perfective marker exists in the perfective. The negative perfective to say there was this event when the verb could have happened, but it did not happen. And then you also have repetitive, or you have habitual, the perfective habitual to say he does this every time. So it becomes this event, right? So she drinks coffee every single time that she drinks something. Or she has not drank coffee yet. And so these are how these forms work. But we need to see the perfective in there. And so we learn how to hunt for it. But this, it's a really good guess because you do have a plus I form. So the U and the plus I and the KW are some kind of bizarre. There's a lot of different verb modes out there. There's probably about 12 that I think you really need to know. And we'll see them and we'll go through what those are. Maybe there's 12. I didn't count. But there's about that many. And then there's more than that. There's these sort of kind of unusual forms. And some of them you'll just learn. Like you do a sock. Everybody who knows a little bit of Tlingit probably knows this one because we learn how to introduce ourselves a lot. And we talk about what's their name, what's that person's name. Okay? So no perfectives here. Anything else? Let's move on. Next box.
Why is there a T?
Where's that?
Or well, like shaduchisht, but then it's
Oh.
decessive.
Yeah, so shadchistin. So when you say shawachisht, it usually gets so the chish is the clubbing verb. But when we take care of repetition in Tlingit, there's different ways. You could say the one form that you're going to see a lot is you're going to see you or yay pop up, not all the time, but then you're going to have a K or an underline X as a suffix. So you're going to see this preverb and suffix pair to come on there. And you're going to see that quite a bit, and there's some examples in here. But another type is the CH, which makes it habitual, to say like it's some sort of habit. Now the T, and then there's some types of motion, like to club something on the head. It's the reason why it has this sort of repetitive thing in it, because like when you club seals, you might club it more than once. Maybe you're just super awesome, and every time you club a seal, it's just dead. But we're just assuming that there's going to be multiple instances of something in one particular time. And so Tlingit is always so interesting the way it looks at time, because it doesn't care about time, but it cares about the event and the sort of the repetition.
So the CH repetitive turned to a T, and then it becomes a D because it's repetitive?
Yeah, the T is always, it's pretty much always on there.
Okay.
It's always, you say hisht in almost every form. But then the reason it turns into a D is, what is this EEN business?
Decessive.
It's the decessive suffix. And you could throw that on, you just throw it right on, and then that just means it doesn't happen anymore. It's the only one that kind of has, well, I guess the future and the decessive are the closest thing to having a time reference in Tlingit. It's just saying it used to happen and now it doesn't. Okay, no perfectives here. Anything in here you want to talk about? It's pretty straightforward. And he says it's really strange. Kach kasayeyi is very strange.
Is that something you could say about any strange place, or is this like a specific like?
No. So kasaye is the verb, and kasayeyi it's become an adjective.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you can also say kasayeyi dain to make it an adverb, to say he was kasayeyi dain yuchi watan. He was talking really strange, right? And then you could say iyaksaye, but that's not nice at all. You have a strange face. So kasayeyi, but it means strange.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll see it in some things, like I think kasayeyi gucha is the name for what? A thermos.
There's
Right? They're like weird, it stays warm. Okay. Anything in here? Any perfectives or anything that you see that you want to talk about?
It's a cool verb. It's a cool verb.
Which one?
Yak kashainen.
Yaqashlainen, right? So what is the verb root for that?
Same.
Good guess. But it is not the correct guess. How do you say the tide went out? Oh, we're title people. We better learn this one. Yan uwasha.
Oh.
Right, and so that's shlain comes from the tide going out, but you'd say yan shlain. It's the tide is going out. So these open suffixes, they usually get closed, and the n is very common to close it. So this is like yak kashlainen. And this is a really cool form too, and it's saying when this thing was kind of in the process of happening, then this other thing would happen. Okay. How about this one? Peace ayu. Dasewe peace.
Tide.
Tide. It's the tide. Peace shui, I think. Shui. It's the tide line. Talking about that the other day. Okay, next box. Anything?
Is Wudai perfective?
Wudai, there's the perfective marker, but when we see the CH on there, so then this akayan wudai, this is the tide coming in. All right, so you say yan uwada, and then yan uwashla. Yan uwashla means it's done being out, but the yan uwada would be it's coming towards the shore. And so yan wudai. So now you have the perfective marker, but you have the minus I classifier, and then the CH on the end. In this case, the CH on a lot of these AA verb roots is going to cause it to go die-ch. So dodge. So yeah, and so in that case, you kunach aka yan udai. And so it's a lot of the meaning is implied in the translation because it's talking about what this guy is doing. But he was watching on it every time the tide was coming. Every time the tide was coming in, he was watching it. That's what it's saying. Okay. Anything fun about this or any perfectives? So there's not a lot of perfectives yet in this story, which is really interesting. Because this story was obviously long time ago. But we see in storytelling methods, it's not always about the perfective. But if someone was going to tell you something that happened just recently, it would be probably all perfectives. This is pretty cool. An ach. So here we got the which is the fourth person human and emotion verb. So people went underneath the village. And so Kauk is a place with a lot of karsts, I think is what they call them, a lot of underground tunnels and stuff like that. Okay. Tutskuwu is really fun. So kuwu. Anybody know what this kuwu is? Octopuses, octopi? Is that how you say it? Octopi live in bears. Octopus. Bears live in them. It's a den. It's a den, but it could mean a cave. And it usually is some sort of cave, but it means a den. Right? Okay. Yeah. I'd have to spend some time with that because, heading north somehow. I'd have to look at that one for a while because na is the north part here. You say naki or nanya, and we see him using these in really interesting ways. Aya'atk, you aya'atk. So here's the one you see, you with a K at the end, and it's telling you this is a repetitive imperfective. And that one translates to it happens. Like people would go, they would just go there. The type of thing that would happen. Next box down, any perfectives? And so in this case, in the perfective we see can contract. If there's something in the preverb, it'll cut the vowel off. It'll cause that contraction in the perfective. And so would be at that place. Would be somebody is adzing or chipping. Right? So they're making this ladder. You have it again here. So what is the difference between Zayt wudutleyech and Zayt wudutleyech?
Zait Hudutliach is like you made a ladder.
A ladder was made.
But Zait Hudutliach, something, Zait Hudutliach, you made a ladder out of.
Something was used for a ladder. So this, when you have this locative on there, that usually means it's not that type of thing. Like you'd say, people were using rocks for chairs. You're saying it's not a chair, it was being used for that. Although they made a ladder, I don't know. In this case, he's saying that's what they used for a ladder. And so,
A tree.
because yeah, it's a tree. It's a tree that was made. Maybe they made steps into it. And he's probably doing this because it's a much different concept than what we might have now for what zait is. Okay. Anything in this one? I don't know what this underline is.
Teacher.
extra 8. Okay.
Gene, is that like
These probably should be put together. I don't think there should be a space. Gene. People used to go down. So here anach ayaya gene. People used to go along. You on day underneath the village. Okay. And they would burn these sapwood. Teich is a sapwood. Okay, Shadduchisht. They were clubbing seals. Here's another habitual, Udahaich. So these things were going, all these things were going underneath the village. Anything you guys trying to see in these boxes that are interesting? What is that? Ataicht. How is that working? K ataicht.
It's that prefix.
Yeah, so the prefix is to tell people about something, give them some news, report something. It's in verbs or it's in nouns like a town crier. It's in verbs like run home to tell somebody something. So ke uwa ich would be the way you would say that verb usually. Somebody yelled out, but in this case, ke ich. Somebody was yelling out to sort of give the news to the people about the tide. It's a really interesting prefix that we see only in the stories. I mean, and maybe this is something that the old-timers who really knew Tlingit well, they knew how to use some of these things. And there's a few other things that we see sort of falling out of use a little bit. Okay, let's take our break and come back, and we're going to move back into our chapter on the perfective. So, back at 6:45. I'm going to cook through a bunch of perfective examples.
Perfect right now.
It's like 5.
That's not perfect. You're using a contraction.
Hey, okay.
Kecha.
Jin Kataway, Kuatletu, Daka Kuatletu, Naskadishu, away Hasti, Kalakasti,
Kecha.
Idikat Klepa, Kledushu, Kudu,
Ukeke.
Kanachaya, Jennifer, Hakatutli Sai.
Did you get your last two signatures?
Yeah.
Thanks. Dude. Three.
This talk is at 7. Tell us this presentation. Is it glacier?
7?
Is it a presentation at 7?
Was it with our reception?
Yes.
Yeah.
Saul Neely's
Yeah.
teacher. Philosophy.
Xander
teacher.
Goodhart.
Oh, isn't there,
Lesson note
what's that one guy? That, isn't Saul bringing some person here? He's like,
He brought it.
Yeah, he's here.
It's Perfective.
Yeah.
He has been brought.
like the person who, like, Nelson Maldonado.
No.
Not him, but like one of the leading scholars on.
Oh, so Nelson Maldonado Torres isn't gonna
No, probably maybe in November. So it's either in the Glacier View or I think it's in the Glacier View.
Probably.
Okay. So we'll go for about another 15 minutes and then we'll. Huh? You want it to be there?
It's harder to sneak in and out in that way.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that will be the party.
Yeah.
About an hour. Okay, so coming back to the perfective. The things that we keep in mind is our focus is primarily on the prefix. Although if there are things in the preverb like ha or ye or yay or you, they'll cause contraction of the perfective marker. Right? So the perfective marker appears right in between the object and the subject. If there are any thematic prefixes, they'll always be in between the object and the perfective marker. So it goes perfective, subject, classifier, but it gets a little sneaky because the perfective and the subject combine in some kind of unusual ways where letters will kind of jump over each other. The perfective will basically always be a W, except in the case of the second person and the second person plural. So that's when it'll change to a Y. The other thing to keep in mind is that the classifier, if it's a perfective verb, the classifier will always be plus I unless that verb becomes part of a dependent clause, right? So you could say, ach tu yak e, ak ye chat ti. Right, so the ya would fall off of it and it goes to a 0. I'm happy to be here. Ach tu yak e, yak ye chat ti. And not everybody, there's a lot of these rules. You'll see it in a lot of the older stuff and you'll see it in a lot of example sentences. But this is why ich setin becomes yake ich sa tine. It switches to the minus I classifier. And so once you learn the perfective form though, the root will always be the same. The stem will always be the same. So as we put these things together, and this was our to sew, to sew something, not just to sew the action, but to sew something like a sweater or whatever. Huaka, watuwaka, yika, yika, awaka, hasawaka, waduwaka. And so that means any 0 classifier verb that has an object and a subject and no thematic prefix, the prefix will look exactly the same for every single one of those verbs. All you would do is switch out the stem, okay? The stem shape is going to depend on the conjugation prefix, but for now, if you can look up that verb or you see it in the perfective form, you should be able to conjugate it for any combination of subject. The object changes it a little bit, and we'll look at that next week. So This week, we're going to just kind of go through these verbs again, and we'll read them. We'll move kind of quickly just to review and just to listen and see them, see the patterns. Again, we've got zero group classifier and then everything else. Because once you learn the zero group, that's how it works for those. Every single other one, including the 0 plus D, all you do is you switch out the consonant. So you've got, we'll look at these classifiers, and they'll all be plus I. So ausiku, ichsetin, ichewa'ach, kaudegan. So the one thing is, these are the classifiers. You're going to have ya, and ya is going to interact in different ways than the others because there's not a real consonant on there. It's like a soft kind of it's a consonant, but it's a flexible one. But the other ones, they should always be si, shi, shi, di, zi, gli, ji. So what you'll see is the prefix is going to be exactly the same, but you're going to say huatle, huashe, huate, huatze, huatle, huache. So you just learn how to switch that classifier, but it all becomes predictable. It follows these very predictable patterns. And then we just got to remember, that's why we've been studying these subject pronouns, so that we can switch them in these forms. Let's move through this stuff. So again, these are the three things, these are the things that we're activating is right here, the perfective marker, and then right here, the plus I component in the classifier. The subject, so the classifier group, if the classifier group changes, it's a different verb. If you add a thematic prefix or change it, it's a different verb. The objects and subjects you can change, and that's how you conjugate. And the one thing that we'll look at next week too is how would you conjugate a perfective verb that uses an indirect object. For example, he or she told me. How would you say that? Achin akawani. He or she told me about you. Achin akawanik idat. So this is using extra things outside of the verb. But and you know there are a few verbs that kind of do that, and we'll look at some of those. For now, we're not changing the object in these. We'll do that a little bit. So like, I heard you, I heard them, I heard them. So we'll look at that. But for now, our goal is to just practice the subject. So here we are with the zero group classifiers. And so we'll start with sticking to the same verb, and then over to the others. And this is the difference here between the zero group and the plus D. This plus D introduces us to the consonant. So you're going to have diqa, and you could have glipa and zipa, theoretically. Right? So huade, huatude, yide, yide, would, would, okay? Here you've got hua, wutua, yi, awa, has awa, wudua. Okay? So the ya is a little bit different, but we'll see the others are all the same. The other sort of thing that's zero group and then all the others, the zero group classifier, the fourth person subject will always be a minus D classifier, right? So even here you see it change. You see wudaqa becomes wuduwaqa, and all the others, S group, L group, SH group, the fourth person pronoun will always be plus D. So we're going to see that switch happening quite a bit. All right, so everybody just, I'll say it, you repeat. Huate.
Huate.
Watuate.
Watuate.
Yite.
Yite.
Awate.
Awate.
Hasawate.
Hasawate.
Waduate.
Waduate.
Huataqa.
Huataqa.
Watutaqa.
Watutaqa.
Yidaka,
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 Wudaka,
Wudaka,
Haswudaka,
Haswudaka,
Wuduwaka.
Wuduwaka.
The other thing to look for is when you're looking at the theme, does it have an object? Because if it has an object, third person has to have the A on there. So we have awa, and without an object, we get w to start that verb. Right. So here we'll move between the S classifier and the plus D S classifier and the verbs we hear. So again, if we look at this, to find O, when we translate these, I found it, we found it, you found it, y'all found it, he or she found it, they found it, it was found. I sewed, we sewed, you sewed, y'all sewed, he or she sewed, they sewed, people sewed, right? So depending on the verb, we get into kind of a weird spot when we translate that for the person. So this first verb is to make something cold, and then we've got to do something wrong or to be up to some shenanigans. Khwasa'at,
Khwasa'at,
watusa'at,
Wutusa'at,
yisa'at,
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 awsa'at,
Awsa'at,
has'awsa'at,
Has'awsa'at,
wududza'at.
Wududza'at.
So that's to make something, to chill it out. A gate khwadzagit,
Agate Khwadzagit,
a gate wutudzagit,
Agate Wutudzagit,
a gate yidzagit,
Agate Yidzagit,
a gate yidzagit,
Agate Yidzagit,
a gate wudzagit,
Agate Wudzagit,
a gate haswudzagit,
Agate Haswudzagit,
a gate wutudzagit.
Agate Wutudzagit.
The other thing is we got zero conjugation prefix. Any zero conjugation prefix verb should be short and high in the perfective. So if you don't know what the conjugation prefix is, but you see a short and high perfective, you know it's a zero. So here we've got one with an object, one without. We have L and D plus L. K'oots is to break a rope-like object. Poo is to flood or vomit. In this case, it's vomit. Khwashak-oots.
Khwashak-oots,
Watushak-oots.
Wutushak-oots,
Yishak-oots.
Yishak-oots,
Yishak-oots.
Yishak-oots,
Aushak-oots.
Aushak-oots,
Has-aushak-oots.
Has-aushak-oots,
Wadudlak-oots.
Wududlak-oots,
Khwadlik-oo.
Khwadlik-oo,
Watudlik-oo.
Wutudlik-oo,
Yidlik-oo.
Yidlik-oo,
Yidlik-oo.
Yidlik-oo,
Woodlik-oo.
Wudlik-oo,
Haswoodlik-oo.
Haswudlik-oo,
Wududlik-oo.
Wududlik-oo.
I broke it, we broke it, you broke it, y'all broke it, he or she broke it, they broke it, it was broken. I vomited, we vomited, you vomited, y'all vomited, he or she vomited, they vomited, people vomited.
You can't vomit an object.
You probably could. And so I think you can add an object there, and my prediction would be the D would drop out. So you could say, what would you vomit? I couldn't think of an example.
I don't know, I was thinking of Greek mythology where he swallowed a stone and he vomited it out. It wasn't so.
Te. I would say te aushiku. That would be my guess. So then you would have the object there, because there's a couple things that happen. One is if there was something like, let's say we could probably do this. So shikoots is to break like some kind of rope-like object. But if they said, what were you doing last night? You could probably say khwatikoots. I was just breaking ropes, right? I don't know why you would say that. But you see it for sewing. So you could say awaka, he or she was sewing it. And then you say wudaka. So what happens is when you kick that, if there's an object there, you kick it out, the verb goes plus D. And then this is one of the body functions, though, that is not an A-themed one. A lot of the other ones are. Sneezing, pooping, peeing, farting, burping. Okay, this might be our last set. We're going to end a little early because there's a presentation on campus. So here we've got the G conjugation prefix and the 0. So we see long and low, short and high. So backing up, long and low, non-zero. Short and high, these are both 0, long and low. And then we've got long and high, which is pretty unusual. They're usually long and low if they're not at 0 conjugation. Oops. Okay, so this is hating it, and then this is bringing food to some sort of gathering, which because it's Tlingit, we have a verb specifically for that. Khoshikan, Watushikan, Yishikan, Yishikan, Aushikan, Hasaushkan, Wadujakan, Khwajakh, Watujakh, Yijakh, Yijakh, Aujakh, Hasaujakh, Wadujakh. So what this sort of handout is doing, and I've almost got the next version finished, which is fun because I haven't written new chapters for things like this in a long time. So it's going to sort of give you the explanation of how this stuff is being put together, the things you should be looking for. It's probably not going to touch on stem variation until maybe in the future. It's something out. But the part that you're going to get by this weekend is there's going to be a whole bunch, and so it really goes through 0 group, 0, it goes 0 classifier, 0 plus D, L, or S, S plus D, L, L plus D, SH, SH plus D. And it shows you how these vary. But same thing, you get khwashe and khwaje, wutushe, wutuje. So the prefix is really the same, you're just changing the consonant of the classifier. And then it goes, from there, it shows what happens when you add thematic prefixes. And it only adds 1, but you can add up to 3, and it would still be the same. But the only one that would be affected is the last one, which would be near the perfective marker. So that's going to show you all these different examples with, and again, with adding the thematic prefix and going through all the different classifier combinations. And then it's going to give you some verb themes and some fill-in-the-blank stuff. So you're going to have to fill in what the perfective form should be and what the pattern is for all of those. And that's going to be your homework, and it's going to be lots and lots of fun. And you get to learn a lot more verbs. So we finally get into a point where we're learning a whole bunch more verbs because you got to know how to say he or she shook her head, and somebody borrowed my basketball, and planting. And these are all, so the focus is on the perfective. Once we feel like we've got a handle on that, we'll do the future, and that might be as far as we get in this semester. Yeah, what? Geesh. Questions? Thoughts? Okay, Ms. Cheesh. I invite you out to tea. Thanks for coming.